This is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. On the first night of this last Sukkot in 2020, I had a dream. Now, I shared it with everyone there and had no intention or plan of sharing it beyond that. However, I had some friends encourage me to reconsider that, and well, here I am. Now, this is not a thus saith the Lord type of thing. It's just something I believe could be from our Heavenly Father. I didn't have pizza that night, so that removes that element. Now, whether you want to consider this as something from Yahweh, well, that's up to you. I won't be offended if you don't, because I know how I am whenever I hear other people's dreams. I do believe Yahweh gives people dreams. I do. I'm just cautious. Now, this presentation is more of how things may play out whenever that time comes. That's what I believe the dream was given for, to show what is going to happen whenever that is. So, let's jump right into this and let's see where it takes us. The dream was very vivid and real. Very real feeling. It started with me looking up at the night sky, and I see this very bright object behind some scattered clouds, if you will. And I remember, saying, well, that can't be the moon because the moon is over there. And then I turn over and I see where the moon is at. And then I remembered as I turned back, at that moment, the clouds were then gone, and I saw what I somehow knew was the New Jerusalem just hovering in the sky. And then I woke up. Now, the funny thing is, as I woke up, I was just lying there in bed. My eyes were still closed, so I'm just lying there. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that was strange. And then I immediately fell right back to sleep. And then I immediately started dreaming. This time, the dream opened up with me hearing commotion all around me. And I looked up and I saw this super bright white comet falling from the sky. Then my vision changed to the perspective as if I was looking through a video camera, and the video camera was zoomed in on the comet. And you can just see the comet, and the camera was trying to track with it, if you will. And then the camera started to pan to the right of it, like panning on its tail. And then I saw behind the comet a bunch of smaller red ones falling right there with it. They're all behind it, if you will. But the camera didn't stop panning. It just continued panning to the right, not pausing at all. Then I saw the bright light behind the clouds, and it played right into the first dream. And that dream repeated exactly as I first saw it. And then I woke up, and it was morning. Now, the first thing that came to my mind was how I had a dream that repeated. I have never, and I mean never, have I ever had something like that happen before. I've heard other people having it, but that was my first time ever. In fact, I couldn't help but think of how Joseph had told Pharaoh's dream to him and say, it was being repeated because it was established, And so that was going over in my mind. I'm thinking, well, wait a second. Is this something of that matter, if you will? Like it was repeated and because it's going to happen, because that's what Joseph had given to Pharaoh. So to me, it meant something. Now, will it? Well, I don't know. But at that moment especially, I was like, goodness gracious, this is crazy. Basically, though, between the two dreams together, I saw a bright white comet coming down, trailed by a bunch of smaller red ones, and then I see the New Jerusalem hovering in the sky. That is basically the essence of what I saw. And completely in a nutshell, that's it. As I thought and prayed about the dreams, I just wasn't getting it. I wasn't understanding. I mean, I believe we'll see the New Jerusalem hovering in the skies to start things off. I really do. I've said that for a couple of years now. I even did an interview on that very topic, and it was titled Aliens, the Bible, and the End Times. It's simply what I believe will be the wake-up event as given in Matthew chapter 25. But at that moment, you'll already be of the 5 wise virgins or of the 5 foolish virgins. At that moment, there's no changing. According to the parable, there will be an unknown amount of time before the door is opened for the 5 wise to be taken in. So, as far as seeing the New Jerusalem, yeah, I get it. I've been thinking that for a while now. But I wasn't understanding the bright comet followed by the little red ones. Then suddenly it hit me. I was seeing Revelation chapter 12. Now, please understand that Revelation is not written in sequential order. Much of it overlaps. In fact, it's given much like my dreams. You can see, one thing in one moment, and then suddenly you see the same thing, but from a slightly different perspective with more details or even possibly less details. So, what was I seeing? Revelation chapter 12. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. The bright comet I saw was Satan falling, and his angels behind him were the little red ones I saw. But that's not all. This is actually one and the same event described in verses 3 through 5. Here we see the dragon and his angels fallen down, but waiting for the resurrection. So, here's 2 accounts of the dragon falling. One showing him falling, and the other showing him to have fallen, but focusing more on after he had fallen. But that's not all. This event with the dragon that fell is also the exact same event given in Revelation chapter 9. The star that falls and opens the abyss. It says his name is Apollyon, also known as Satan. These verses of Revelation chapter 12 and 9 all overlap. They're one and the same event with Satan falling. I discussed these verses in our recent teaching, Halloween and the Believer, and the first 5 trumpets. This event in Revelation 9 takes place when Satan has fallen and the New Jerusalem is being seen hovering in the skies. So, at the wake-up event of the 10 virgins, these creatures are released, and it will be just before the resurrection. Thus, we see they aren't allowed to torture those who have the seal of God on their forehead. That wouldn't even be an option if those who were sealed were already taken. But again, this is the wake-up event. All 10 virgins in Matthew 25 are now woke up. And then, after a little while, we see the 5 wise, those who are sealed, are taken into the wedding banquet. Since I already knew seeing the New Jerusalem hovering in the sky was going to be the wake-up event, I believe that could be why I was given that dream first. Then I was given what comes before and in conjunction with that event to further detail what's to come. I was asked by a friend if I knew if the moon was full or not in my dream, and all I can remember about the moon was that it was very, very bright. So it definitely wasn't a new moon. With it being so bright in my dream, my assumption is that it was a full moon, and that goes in line with Revelation chapter 6. That's where the great earthquake of the sixth seal takes place on the day of a full moon. Now, if these beings are released as described in Revelation 9, we're told they'll be torturing people for 5 months. Many link this to the days of Noah and how waters covered the earth at that time for exactly 150 days. In Noah's day, 150 days would have indeed been a perfect 5 months. So, why does it say 5 months in Revelation and not 150 days as in Genesis? As discussed in our teaching, The Calendar, the celestial mechanics of today are not the same as they were in the days of Noah. Those celestial mechanics changed in the days of King Hezekiah. If you're interested in understanding why, please see our teaching, The Calendar. 150 days is an exact count. However, saying 5 months is more of a general time given when it comes to counting days. It doesn't necessitate 150 days. Now, can it be? Well, sure. But it doesn't have to be. It could be a little less or a little more than 150 days and still be 5 months. Now, that being said, if, and I say if, the full moon of this Halloween is to be applied or considered, is there anything of significance around the 5-month mark after it? Well, interestingly enough, there are 148 days from Halloween 2020 to Passover 2021 on the Jewish calendar. In essence, 5 months. In fact, it's 5 lunar cycles afterwards. 5 lunar months, just as described in Revelation 9. 5 months. So what does this mean or imply? Well, think of it this way. When did salvation come to the Hebrews when they were in Egypt? It came on the night of Passover. So it's very possible the Antichrist defeats these alien invaders and brings salvation to the world on the night of Passover. 5 lunar months from Halloween, thus giving way for the Antichrist to rise to world power and not just over Israel. In the eyes of the Jews, this would validate their calendar, at least to them. Then, most of all, it would validate their Messiah as king of the world, when in reality, he's the anti-Messiah deceiving the world. Remember, the coming of the lawless one, that being the Antichrist, will be in accordance with the work of Satan, displayed in all kinds of counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders. But they're counterfeit, fake, false. They will all look real, but they won't be. Remember, he's under the control of Satan. It was Satan who first loosed the creatures out of the abyss. So he's not defeating the creatures he loosed. He's just done using them at that time. They served their purpose. And that purpose was to get the world to accept his Messiah. He creates the problem so he can present his solution. The rise of the Antichrist. But again, these creatures are only allowed to harm those who don't have the seal of God on their foreheads. Thus, the sealing of the 144,000 had to have already taken place. And, as given in Revelation 7, the sealing takes place before the earthquake of Revelation 6. So these creatures are released from the abyss just after the 144,000 are sealed, but before the resurrection. That's why verses 4 and 5 says they can only harm those who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. So those who are sealed are still here at this moment. Now, they're the 5 wise virgins waiting for the door to open. So, when the world sees the New Jerusalem, these beings will be released. And as crazy as it may sound, it could appear as an alien invasion. It's very possible this will be the powerful delusion mentioned in 2 Thessalonians. Whenever I say we'll see the New Jerusalem hovering in the skies and it would be the wake-up event, many reply with, but Revelation 21 says the New Jerusalem doesn't come down until after the millennium. But actually, that's when we see it coming all the way down to earth. It actually comes down to earth then, not just hovering. It's the beginning of the dwelling of Yahweh being with men. However, I believe this dream is connecting some dots I didn't even know existed. They explain how certain verses all tie together between the wake-up event to the resurrection. This is why the next verse in chapter 12 shows the event of our salvation, the resurrection. This salvation is what's discussed right after the 144,000 are sealed. These people here in chapter 7 are the rest of the Church of Philadelphia with the 144,000. The 144,000 are those who are numbered for war to ride with Yeshua. This is discussed in our teaching, the Church of Philadelphia. This is the salvation discussed in the book of Hebrews, the salvation that comes to those who are waiting for Him. This is the resurrection taking place. It's when the 5 wise virgins are taken in. These verses in Revelation 12 says they overcame. The same thing Yeshua encouraged all 7 churches to do. To the church of Ephesus, to the church of Smyrna, to the church of Pergamum, to the church of Thyatira, to the church of Sardis, to the church of Philadelphia, and to the church of Laodicea. Thus, these in Revelation chapter 12 overcame. They took part in the salvation discussed in Hebrews 9. So how could it all play out whenever it plays out? How could these events play out sequentially in real life? In light of what we've discussed here already, please consider this possibility. First, it will start with war in heaven. Then Satan and his angels lose their place and are thrown down. The New Jerusalem is seen in the sky. This is the wake-up event for the 10 virgins. Then Satan opens the abyss and releases the creatures of Revelation chapter 9. This will make the New Jerusalem to be seen as the source of the invasion, possibly being the powerful delusion. Now, somewhere before this point, the 144,000 are sealed. The creatures are loosed for 5 months. Then the next event will be when the 5 wise virgins are taken into the marriage banquet, the resurrection. Immediately after the resurrection, the earthquake takes place. It's the birth pains of the earth giving birth to her dead. This is covered in our teaching, the birth pains. This will also be the time when Babylon is destroyed. This will all be the beginning of the tribulation. Now, not long after that, the Antichrist rises to power and pursues all who hold to the testimony of Yeshua and keep the commandments of Yahweh. I believe it's very possible the Antichrist will most likely try to force non-Jews to keep the laws known as the Noahide laws. That is, of course, yet to be seen. Now, whether you believe the tribulation to be 7 years, 3.5 years, or a year or under like us, it really doesn't matter. This will be the beginning. It will end with the Battle of Armageddon, most likely at the end of Sukkot. After that battle, those who survive the tribulation will begin their journey from around the world to Jerusalem. This is what has been called by many the Second Exodus, or the Greater Exodus. It's discussed in Isaiah 66 and Jeremiah 16. Whether any of this turns out to be true whenever it happens, well, that is yet to be seen. All I can say is that's what my dream consisted of, and where my current understanding of it is today. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.